to introduce you to our group, which is Purchasing Power. We have on our team, we have people who are buyers within the public sector, people who are professional procurement people, people who are trying to sell to the public sector. We also benefited from excellent advisors during our event. What is procurement? Basically, it's the acquisition of goods and services from an external source and at the best possible cost to meet the needs of the purchaser. What are the issues we learned during this process? The issues that kept coming up was the time and cost associated for SMEs in responding to tenders. On average, each tender, even the smallest tender, costs $4,500 to $5,000 for a small business to fill in. And on the other side, it actually costs the same on the public body to actually prepare the tender. It costs on average €60 an hour per person involved. So that's a high cost on both ends. The other issue that came up was knowing the buyer and their needs. This is somebody trying to break in. Getting their foot in the door is crucial for a small business because often we go back to the suppliers who have dealt with us before. So how do they get that first job with a public body? And also our standard conditions on insurance, on public liability, on the accounts, the finances that a company has to have in place, on experience. Those cumulatively can deter any small firm from actually bidding. So these are all issues we need. So what the challenge for us is that small companies find it difficult to sell to public bodies, and the sad fact is this is about to become a lot more difficult. As nationally we group a lot of tenders together across local authorities, across public bodies, it will actually become more difficult for small firms to sell to public bodies. The buyer also is faced with fewer options to actually purchase from small firms, and because of the changing procurement practices and legislation. So what can we do? So what we're saying is we need to increase the dialogue, and in our graphic here is the startups, our little button on the left. Dublin City Council is representing all public buyers here, and the European, it's not, a lot of procurement happens within the European framework, so either national or European level. So we have to link up these pieces of the jigsaw if we really want to support small firms. So this is our proposal, and we call it Dialogue Dublin, and we say we're listening because we need to be listening to each other in this space. So what is it? Dialogue Dublin is a strategy to open up discourse between the purchaser and the SME. Purchasers are, when I'm buying within Dublin City Council, I maybe don't know of a small supplier who could also do the same job. So my tendency is, maybe if I'm being lazy, is to go back to the same supplier I've used before, particularly for items that are off contract or an area that I'm unfamiliar with. The SMEs are often unaware of what we're planning, of emerging needs within public bodies. We, as a collective, as I was saying, we need to prepare for the changes that are coming. So as we as purchasers, as startups, and nationally and European-wise, we can actually have a playing field that is open to startups to actually participate in. So what can we, the public purchaser, do now? This is our quick fix. So what can we do tomorrow, or next Monday, let's say? Is basically options under 50,000, we have choices in. We can actually, there are smaller contracts and things like that. We can include a new small business next time we send out quotes. Don't always go to the same suppliers, include a new small business. We can look at our qualification criteria. Do we actually need that amount of insurance? Why are we asking for that amount of experience? Include small firms on quotes, and also don't be so dictatorial in what we're looking for. Tell people, say we're looking for a solution to this problem, and so people can come up with innovative solutions. The other thing that came up was that we're meeting fewer and fewer small businesses. So what we're proposing is an event for SMEs which will run run by the city and with the city, attended by SMEs, buyers and those in procurement. And the City Enterprise Board, the Digital Hub, all the people who are business facing, economic development, where we would brief people on what we plan to purchase in the next year. It would be two-way. People could also tell us the issue, the products they have and the issues they're facing, and we could give feedback on tenders in general. The great thing about this is that it would build relationships which are necessary. So it would build relationships. It would have the potential to develop up to being a showcase for small firms and to be a permanent network in place to link small businesses and the public bodies. Thank you. Sorry, I'll introduce Jason Rowe, my colleague.
Hello. So I represent SMEs. So in terms of quick fixes for SMEs, I guess there's some high-level things that we said we could do now. Most of the things are probably obvious when you first look at it, but have the basic requirements ready to go just for a procurement piece. So just in terms of tax accounts, all that kind of stuff, having them ready to go ahead of a procurement kind of bid. Not everyone, I suppose everyone rushes to the last minute to try and get stuff together, so it's just a case of acknowledging that you need those right away when you enter into the process. Nomination of one person or people within the organisation to actually get trained in the procurement piece is something that can be done fairly quickly for an SME. The question is who pays for it? If you're going to get new business as a result of that employee being trained up and you're going to win new tenders and stuff like that, it kind of pays for itself over time. And work on templates. I guess this isn't just in-house, but a collaborative way of people putting a framework together so that that can be shared for responding to tenders. So a general structure that can be shared around. Typically the tender responses tend to be fairly rigid anyway, but there might be something in that space that we can do. So one piece we thought would be interesting would be if we took the concept of procurement network. So there's a lot of different ways that if tenders have been consolidated over time and they're getting harder and harder to get for SMEs, there may be an opportunity where SMEs can group up together and start working together on bigger tenders. The difficulty is trying to find the right match of skills for the right tenders. So what we're suggesting is a place where startups can go. They can see the list of all the tenders that are currently there or coming up. They can tag and say, I like this tender, these are my skill sets, and also say that 2 other skill sets or 3 other skill sets are required. And that can be sent out to a network of people that can then decide if they want to join up together. Think of it as a dating website for tenders, if you will. So, classy as that is. What we see is it's not another portal, it's not another site that just sits out there and has to be built up and marketed to. We're putting it in and we're proposing that it's what we call middleware. So it's a platform that's shared out to groups and organisations that already exist. It's a tool that can be branded as theirs, so you can go out to an association or a body and say, this is something that you can use with your own members, with your own groups, or you can create your own group to be able to come together on those tenders. You're not isolated into your own network. It can be shared out, and any skills that you don't have within your own associations or groups, you can tap into the wider network of people. This is kind of what we thought it could look like. We just thought it was a simple way of mocking up. We're trying to keep a social presence to it, but in a way that could get people to engage. Again, it's somewhat agnostic. The branding can be changed out, all that kind of stuff. The idea would be that you like tenders, or that you basically, it's a simple way of saying that you're interested in a tender and your skills are associated with that. By being able to, if nobody else has tagged stuff before, as in to say there are 2 other skills required, then you can go in and tag them and say these are the skills that are required, and alerts can be sent out to the wider network of people who are looking to do tenders. So in summary, it brings SMEs together to build on larger tenders. It's cross-pollination between associations and groups, so it's going out to where people already are, not trying to create another portal for it has to be marketed. It builds up capacity for SMEs that isn't currently there because they're struggling to do it on their own. And it increases opportunities for work in the public sector where you wouldn't have got it before because you have collaborated. So in terms of I guess we said that there's a bigger piece to these 2 proposals. One is around quotas. So in terms of, it's very difficult to say 30% of all tenders have to be awarded to startups, but it's much easier to say, set a target of 30% of people have to try and get to apply for tenders. In terms of tracking of data, we believe that if that information was available across the board around what tenders are coming up, what has been sold, how much they sold for, in a way that didn't compromise commercial kind of stuff, and a way of aggregating it together, that would be interesting to be able to see, so startups can use that. And setting up of an innovation fund that's similar to the fund that was talked about before, but specifically used for innovative solutions outside of the procurement network that could be awarded to startups for particular projects that are bidded for. So, cheers, thanks.